There's absolutely no course in the world like Crandon, and going into turn one at 100 miles an hour is probably the most exhilarating part. It's the only time in the world that I've ever got to do a land rush start, and going in there at 100 miles an hour, open wheel, 40-inch tires with a bunch of other knuckleheads. It's the most adrenaline pumping thing I think I've ever done.
Hi and welcome to the RACER Debrief. We're looking ahead to the Crandon World Championships, and we got a couple of very special guests today. We have the professional Fun-Haver chief, Vaughn Gittin, and we've also got rock crawling and off-roading legend. I don't want to build that up too much, Loren, but Loren Healy. So, guys, welcome to the RACER Debrief.
Thanks for having us.
Before we get into Crandon, just want to talk about your weekends. We've got you hot off the Vegas to Reno off-road race, and I know contrasting fortunes, but two battling weekends for the pair of you.
Yeah, it was a crazy race, right? Vegas to Reno, 500 miles from Vegas to just outside of Reno. This race saw myself in a Bronco Raptor. Loren was in the Raptor R. And, I had shared driving duties with Bailey Campbell. She's our newest RTR driver. And this effort is a team effort between RTR Vehicles Off-Road, Ford Performance, and Level Racing. And so we all kind of formed like Voltron, and we attacked this race. We had a really clean race in the Bronco Raptor. I drove 315 miles. Bailey got in, brought to the finish line, and we won our class. There's no secret about it. We were out there racing Chevy in the midsize class, and we're able to really put it down and make it happen and get the win. And Loren can hop into his experience of the day.
Hi, quick timeout to tell you about something special. You are going to want to visit racer.com/bundle. RACER just dropped a bundle for real motorsports fans. It includes RACER Plus, the new streaming home for everything from WRC and Dakar to DTM, Crandon, the Isle of Man TT, drifting, and even these podcasts, all in one place. You name it. This is a full spectrum of racing, from grassroots to global, off-road to electric, 2 wheels or 4, and it's a spectacular deal. Head to racer.com/bundle to sign up now. All right, back to the show.
Yeah, it was definitely an awesome weekend, and like Vaughn echoed, what Ford's done in the stock class of, we went out and won the Baja 1000, won the Mint 400, won a ton of these races in the stock class, and we didn't have a perfect day in the Raptor. Experienced a couple problems later on in the race with getting stuck in the sill and some a couple other problems. So ended up second, but still was an absolutely awesome weekend. Love seeing the team come together, and now it's exciting and get ready for Crandon. It's a really quick turn for the team. So everybody drove back from Reno, long nights of driving. They're back getting our unlimited trucks ready to race at Crandon. So.
And those unlimited trucks, a few weeks ago for the pair of you, a bit of an adventure, because with the addition of a couple of fender extensions, some lights, they miraculously became trophy trucks, and you guys took on the Baja 500. And I think there it was maybe Loren, it was you getting the good luck, and it was Vaughn with a little bit of a hey, we suffer and we learn.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's the really cool thing about Ultra 4 trucks. We always call them the Swiss Army knives of off-road racers, and they can go from Crandon to short course to the Baja 500, doing these big long races, but they were designed to race King of the Hammers, racing through these Volkswagen sized boulders. That's what they were designed for, but they do everything, and they're not perfect at any one of those things, but they do great at everything. They're so much fun to drive. And yeah, the Baja 500 was, our first time ever racing in the trophy truck class, and to meet the rules, we threw some extended fenders on it to cover up the tires. And otherwise, we could pass all the rules and the tech and stuff. And yeah, I had a great day. Finished 4th overall in the all-wheel drive trophy truck class, which was, I've never been so excited about a 4th place in my life, but that to me was a huge adventure. And Vaughn had a whole different adventure he can tell you about.
This is RACER, your all-access pass to the best in motorsports, performance, and car culture. Get RACER Plus for live races, extended highlights, breaking news, and fan-favorite build and enthusiast shows, all in one place. From Formula Drift to off-road mayhem,
a full-blown nail-biter,
supercars to grassroots brawls, garages to rare collectors. Stream it all, anytime, anywhere. This is about machines and the people who move the culture forward. And when the screen fades, the story continues in RACER Magazine, a collectible trusted by champions, creators, and connoisseurs. Every page, a deeper dive into the soul of speed and performance. RACER Plus and RACER Magazine, the ultimate bundle. Built for the obsessed, powered by passion.
Yeah, no, it was incredible. It was my first time down at Baja, and Loren has been telling me for years how much he loves Baja, and we need to get down there. So we made a decision to race this year, and it is such a vibe. Like, once I got down there, and we're doing days of pre-running, and the locals are so welcoming, and it became a really just epic adventure pre-running on its own. And then we get into or I should say adventure plus tacos, because
tacos,
it became our kind of like our daily bread, if you will, to make sure that we had tacos for lunch, middle of pre-running, and then dinner after pre-running. So it kind of became like our compass of where we were going. But after the fun of pre-running, it was race day, and we felt super prepared, and for us, it was going amazing, up until it didn't, which I think is a lot of people's story in Baja. But, Loren and I were, just running the pace that we aligned on. And, we were up in the top 10, battling it out with trophy trucks, which was just, mind-blowing. On paper, we had quite a disadvantage, but this course really allowed like the nimbleness of our trucks and the diversity of our driving to really show through, I think. But once we got to about race mile 200 or so, I'm just cruising, not going any crazy pace. And then all of a sudden, boom, and I'm sideways flying through the air. It's kind of like a Ricky Bobby moment, if you will. And I'm like, I think like while we're doing our flip, I'm asking my co-driver, like, what was that? And sure enough, it was this massive, like Volkswagen size boulder that I just caught like a half inch of my wheel in, maybe an inch, and it just blew the whole front corner of my truck off, sent us sideways. We did a flip, and once we had stopped and realized everything, we were all good and kind of got our marbles together. I remembered there was a family about a half mile up on course. So we walked up there, and 20 minutes later, we're sitting getting fed, trackside ceviche, and just kind of like figuring out what the next step was. But, we got to hang out with this family. We took their kids down to where the truck crashed, put them in the truck. And, it's just like all these different elements of that race, aside from the race, but meeting this family, we couldn't communicate, but we communicated around like the love of the race and the passion of racing. And it ended there. In hindsight, I saw that rock during pre-running.
Oh, wow.
And my co-driver literally said, we should mark, do you want to mark that? And I was like, no. I was like, I'll see that, because I was in a bug. And now I realize I was in a buggy at eye line with this rock. I was like, there's no way I'll miss that. But in the race truck with the extended fenders, the higher ride height, it just wasn't even there, you know? And so, huge learning lesson for myself. But definitely proud of, you know, the performance up to that point. And our team did an unbelievable job. I mean, Baja is a massive undertaking, and the preparation, the strategy, everything that everyone had planned out, really led by Loren, was really impressive for a first time effort. And, you know, pumped, you know, we bring, you know, 2 bullets to the race, and one of them made to the finish in a very impressive way. So, no, there was no tears shed. It was just all gratitude and just pumped for the experience. It's epic out there.
Well, as you say as well, kudos to Loren, the guy who, as you say, Loren was the guy who put in the hours with the Fox guys, put in the hours with the rigid guys. I think you described it as bringing a pistol to a machine gun fight, and that this was basically, you know, to go with the trophy trucks, it had to be full on from the start. But Loren, in terms of your game plan, I mean, as you say, it went flawlessly, but flawlessly at sort of 95% or flawlessly at 75% in terms of the experience gained in the plan.
Yeah, it was definitely, I mean, we came out pushing, but there's a lot of lessons learned that I've learned over the last 20 years desert racing of you can throw the whole race away in the mayhem that is like the first 100 miles in the race. And Vaughn just got to really experience that at Vegas to Reno. Cars burning down, everybody's flipped over. The dust is the most intense dust you'll ever see. And that's when we didn't get to qualify because we didn't run the 250. That's how score works, is you have to qualify. You have to run the race before to qualify. So we automatically had to start in the back of the trophy trucks, which meant we were kind of in the back with the slower guys, and we were going to fight through some dust, and we were going to have to push them out of the way. But, you know, everybody, all the experienced trophy truck racers kept telling us, do not burn the truck down the first 100 miles. Like, get to that place where you guys can really go push the trucks and then see what the trucks can do. And Vaughn and I both really listened to that and understood that, you know, in the beginning, be patient, don't make that mistake in the dust, don't ruin your race right away, and then start to push. And there's this road that's called Mike's Sky Ranch that is kind of ultra four-ish. You know, there's some big boulders and big rocks and stuff like that. And that's where we both had a game plan of starting to turn up and really start seeing where we could get to and start moving up in the ranks. And yeah, the race, you know, went absolutely flawless. On my side, you know, fuel was the only thing we needed all day and got to the finish line.
So with the lessons learned, we've got the biggie coming up in November. We've got the Baja 1000. You guys have proved the chops of the Ultra 4s in the trophy truck class. What are the thoughts for the big one?
So we're already committed to racing with Ford in the stock class. So the same trucks that we just ran at Vegas to Reno, we'll be running there with, you know, some more surprises. We're bringing a huge effort. It's the 15th anniversary of Raptor, and, you know, that will be a huge effort for the whole Ford team.
So before that, we have Crandon imminent. Vaughn, you're in the lucky position as the professional fun-haver for kind of choosing your events. Obviously, King of the Hammers is a no-brainer. You've got the Baja 500. Crandon is something that is always big on your to-do list. What is the lure of Crandon for you?
Yeah, Crandon is well, first of all, just the whole event as a whole, it's just a vibe. I mean, there's 60,000 hardcore off-road fans there. It's one of the few events every year, you know, that you can see almost the entire race from the stands. And I was telling Loren, you know, on our way back, it's just like how Crandon is like such the most amazing, the best off-road track in the world, in my opinion. Like, it's so perfect for off-road racing. They brought in rock piles for us to race through. They built a whole area out in the back. So we do 2 races there. One is like the main Ultra 4 race, which has, you know, the obstacles out in the back. And I mean, that night, I remember the first year there was probably 200 people back there in the back because they had no idea what we were doing. And now there's thousands of people that go in the back to watch the carnage and the craziness that happens in the obstacle area. And then once we do that, we come back on the short course. And so, and then Sunday for the World Championship, we just raced the short course. But it is just intense battles. You know, Loren is the Ultra 4 King of Crandon. I've had some great, I've won there, and I've got a couple second or thirds, but I've never been able to battle Loren in a clean race. Every time I ever won was when he got knocked out. So this year I'm extremely excited about it because we have identical trucks, and it's going to be a pretty epic race. There's going to be some good competition coming there. And but the jumps, it's jumping, it's drifting, and it's full commitment, which are all the things I love about motorsport. And that's kind of how Crandon's summed up,
Well, Loren, as well, as Vaughn was saying, for the World Championship race on the Sunday, remove the rocks. It is purely the classic Crandon 1.5 miles of jumps and sweeps. For you, for your mindset, how sort of like tricky? How do you have to sort of rethink your mindset for that? Just the mayhem of that pure Crandon course.
Yeah, there's absolutely no course in the world like Crandon, and going into turn one at 100 miles an hour is probably the most exhilarating part. It's the only time in the world that I've ever got to do a land rush start, and going in there at 100 miles an hour, open wheel, 40-inch tires with a bunch of other knuckleheads. It's the most adrenaline pumping thing I think I've ever done. I've been lucky enough to get 10 wins there at Crandon, so I'm very grateful for the success there. I think that there's a limit of how hard you can push the truck, as well as being smart and staying out of the battles and staying out of the craziness, in the start, and just making very smart moves out there. We do actually have one little diversion in the track, even though for the World Championship that they do put us through the rock pile, and it's very, very long, and there's tire getters like crazy in there. So it's really hard to figure out the pace. If you go blasting in there right out of the start and skip sideways and rip a wheel off or a corner off your truck, your race is over right away. And we've seen that many, many times. And so that really adds a little bit of, extra care that you have to take of the truck that you don't see of the Pro 2s and the Pro 4s. And that rock pile is actually our best passing opportunity on the track. And so that's where, the crowd really gets to see something new with our trucks. And because they weren't built for short course, they're top heavy, they roll over easier. We've got, more horsepower, but we've also got a bunch more weight and bigger tires and all this stuff. And I think that's why the crowd really enjoys watching the Ultra 4s race at King of the Hammers, because it's just completely different, and we always bring the mayhem.
A couple of days ago, Vaughn, we were speaking to Johnny and CJ Greaves, obviously two of the kings of Pro 4. They were saying that, it's the weekend where you forget about the bigger picture, you forget about championships. This is basically the Indy 500. This is the Daytona 500 for those guys. For you guys as well, obviously, there's Ultra 4 full season competitors in there, but it's the point where they sort of take the brain out and don't think about full season. That must really sort of crank up the craziness.
Yeah, no, it does, right? It is for us, especially, our strategy this year is just pick big races that, we have equipment to be competitive in. And Crandon is on that list. And you're just focused on that event, right? There's no, hey, I probably should just be smart because, if I damage and I'm out, I lose all these points. It doesn't matter. We're there to win that race. And, it's a pressure off in one side of it, but on the other side, it's pressure on because you're lined up against Loren Healy and Paul Wolf and Shannon Campbell. And, they all have the same mindset. So, like Loren said, you really just got to be, you got to be smart while being aggressive. Everything is a calculated risk. That's motorsport as a whole. But like Loren said, when you get in these trucks with open wheels and, you're running, inches from each other, it only takes an inch, each of you going an inch the opposite way to touch tires, and then you're flying through the air. So, it's being smart while getting a little bit cowboy Western with it, and that's what's amazing about it. It's just so, it's a controlled chaos, much like drifting, and I think that's why I love it so much.
Loren, last time we saw your boys' Ultra 4s, yours was pretty much pristine. We had it where basically Vaughn's was a 3-corner mobile. I mean, obviously that is now back and race ready. But in terms of the challenge of Crandon, how much sort of tweaking, how much setup differences are between sort of going to Crandon and, say, going something like King of the Hammers?
Yeah, we tried to make some dramatic changes to make these trucks work better on a short course track like that. And so, the years and years of doing this, we've learned how to lower the center of gravity, change the spring rate, change the valving in the shocks. We work with Fox and we run all the live valve shocks, and they can make new algorithms and change valving and do all this cool stuff in the shocks to make the truck work better on the short course track. And then we also traditionally run a portal front end when we're out in the desert or at King of the Hammers. We take a bunch of that unsprung weight off and go to a traditional, Pro 4 style front suspension that works better for cornering and keeping the center of gravity down. And then we also re-gear. So Crandon, we shoot for about 100-mile-an-hour top speed instead of 130 or so what we gear for in the desert. So we'll do a bunch of gear ratio math and change gear ratios. And then everything we can do to get weight off the truck, because we don't need to be carrying spare tires and jacks and spare parts and stuff like that around. So if we can take 500, 700, 800 pounds off these heavy trucks to get to Crandon, then it is an advantage to try to do, to be better and win that race.
You guys have mentioned a couple of the opposition, the likes of the Wolfmeister, but who do you sort of see yourselves sort of wheel to wheel, kind of most head to head with when it comes to Crandon, and who are the guys who sort of like race your hardest and will never ever back out?
Yeah, I mean, I fully expect that Vaughn and I are gonna have the battle we've kind of been anticipating this year. He mentioned I've been in a single seat truck there the last few years, which is a little bit of an advantage on that track. But this year, I'm racing like Vaughn said. I mean, it's identical. Engine horsepower within a tick or two. I mean, the trucks are absolutely identical. Setup's the same. It couldn't be more of an even match. So we're going to really find out who the better driver is this week. And there's no advantages. It's going to be great. But like you said, Wolf and I have had some epic battles there the last couple of years, back and forth, door to door, banging on each other, wrecks and rolls. Shannon Campbell, I've been racing him for 10, 15, 20 years, and he never backs out of it, never cuts us any slack. Paul Herschel, he's got the craziest big block, 300 more horsepower, and will straight line you to death, but that truck doesn't love to turn. So you just got to figure out to stay out of his way until he gets to the corner. It's definitely some wild epic battles, and it's going to be an amazing race, like always with Crandon. But hey guys, I've got to dip off. I'm out in the middle of the desert and got to jump on a production, but thank you so much for having me. And I know Vaughn will continue to have some fun with you.
Hey, Loren, thank you for joining us. Good luck with your rest of the day, as you say, out there in the desert, doing the proper job while Vaughn basically is back at home relaxing. But thanks for finding the time there.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, guys. We'll see ya.
Hey, well, Vaughn, that was a lot of great insight there from you and Loren, who, as he says, has had to go off and do the day job. But we still have Vaughn with us. And obviously, Vaughn, in your universe, it isn't just the off-road, and it isn't just the Ultra Fours, it isn't just the various Bronco programs. Still huge in terms of the Formula Drift program. And I know that obviously you are taking a little bit of a backseat when it comes to on track, sort of picking and choosing your events. But hey, let's just talk about the Formula Drift season so far. And that man, James Dean, good grief, he's a force of nature.
He is absolutely unreal. Yeah, like you mentioned, I've taken a step back just so I can manage running a business, off-road, all the many things that I have going on, trying to be a good father and husband as well. And so, we're still, campaigning 2 full-time vehicles, right? We've got our rookie driver, Ben Hobson, who's basically under the wing of our lead driver, the one and only James Dean. We have won championships the last 2 years, 23 and 24, and currently at this moment leading the points in the 25 Formula Drift Championship. And yeah, it's been it's really incredible to watch. You know, I'm doing 2 rounds. I'm doing Atlanta, and I'll be doing the finals in Long Beach.
Right.
But it's just been really incredible, you know, the last few years being a part-time driver and, you know, full-time team owner. But you know, if I'm honest, I'm relatively absentee. You know, I do get involved if and when I'm needed, but I have attracted an incredible team that you know runs the day-to-day. You know, last year, you know, just James's first year being our lead driver is Chelsea prior to that. And you know, this year just sitting back and watching the team work their magic and being able to be a fan and you know, watch it with my boys. It's really incredible. And but the sport, man, as a whole right now it's just like in an unbelievable golden era that I am like, not that I unexpectedly got there, but like now that I'm not in it and I'm able to just step back and assess, I mean, selling out everything, the competition and the vehicles are just absurd. I mean, our Mustangs make 1,400 horsepower. You know, they weigh, you know, just under 3,200 pounds, you know, wet with a driver, or right at 3,200, I should say. And it's just, it's so far beyond, you know, what, you know, me 20 years ago ever expected it to be at. That's for sure.
Sure. And also, when you do get in, as you say, you ran Atlanta, you are going to do well, it's going to be a huge finale. Goodness me, Long Beach sort of closes down for a second FD round. But is it sort of muscle memory? How quickly do you sort of dial yourself back into just the power, the precision, you know, inches apart?
Yeah, I'm there. You know, and it's like, I'm not like I'm like sitting on the couch, you know, I still drive a lot and it all translates, whether it's off-road, whether it's doing exhibitions, whether it's content. You know, I very well, you know, was in a place where I could have won Atlanta. Unfortunately, I got lined up against James Dean in the first round of battle. And we had an epic battle, but he inched me out. But yeah, no, I feel so, you know, if I'm completely honest and as humble as I can say it, like I feel like I could run for another championship.
Right.
It's just a time thing for me. So is it muscle memory? Yes. But I think it's more so, you know, just that G meter that us drivers build in.
Yeah.
You know, I keep mine tuned. And so no matter what vehicle I get in, you know, I always approach driving as just a steering wheel and 4 tires. And, you know, am I trying to keep it sideways today or am I trying to keep it pointed straight? And really, that's just my approach. You know, it's just a couple switches in the brain of like, this is the job. And then I just put my full focus on that. And, you know, my hand-eye and coordination and reflexes, you know, we're all still there and it all flows together. And so I'm very grateful for that. You know, I'm 45 years old, but I still, you know, I'm still feeling 29 in the body and brain. So
now we see a lot of your sort of post-event vids where you will give us some really, really on-point insight about, you know, the Formula Drift rounds just gone. As you say, you know, you're quite hands-off. There are a million other things happening in Vaughn Gittin world. But how do you sort of like feedback? How do you know, help James, and also obviously, you know, Ben being the rookie as well? How do you sort of make them better drivers from your experience?
Yeah, so, you know, really on any given weekend, I'm kept up to date. I get videos sent to me between our team and between Ben's father. I get pretty much everyone's laps. So I'll step back and I'll assess the laps and watch for the progression throughout the day. And if I don't see progression in certain areas, and I'll chime in, I'll ping, you know, either James or Ben Spotter, and I'll say, hey, I'm seeing this. And I give perspective based on my experience at those tracks. You know, each of these tracks have a certain element that really you just have to focus on. And once you nail that one element, it's almost like everything else comes. Mm-hmm. And so I will, you know, share perspective where I can. And, you know, as the event goes on, I will see what others are doing from the outside, and then I'll ping spotters and I'll say, hey, in the case you didn't see this, this is the focus. Everyone's missing this spot. If we can hit this spot and they don't, we get the advantage, So I'll assess it from that way. So it's really just those little intricacies, I call it my, excuse me, my salt and pepper, and that's really kind of how I run around the entire business, whether it's RTR vehicles, motorsport, media, business development type stuff. It's, I just kind of assess it, and I'll just sprinkle in, some of that magic where, with respect to like my unique perspective. And that seems to be really just enough to be able to assist. And frankly, sometimes I don't need to do anything because the team is already all over it. In fact, I see myself sometimes, like I say, I'm the king of unsolicited feedback. And I can see sometimes they're like, yeah, Vaughn, we got it. But I wouldn't be doing my job if I wasn't. And I'm fine with them rolling their eyes at me 9 out of 10 times, because that one time is going to be the differentiator. And so, that's kind of what it's evolved to, and they welcome it all the way around. And, I'm really just also trying to be in the back and be a cheerleader and just put good energy out there and make sure everybody is just vibing high, because that on a race weekend is almost as valuable as the right equipment.
One of the things as well about Formula Drift, obviously, is you have the judges. And Vaughn, with your experience, you probably know the moods and the nuances and sort of weekend to weekend, what a judge is going to call, what he isn't going to call. I mean, how important is that? I guess it's like baseball, where you've got to know if they're going to sort of like, call it sort of high, call it sort of low, whatever, and bring in that, the sort of like the more esoteric side of Formula Drift.
Yeah, the one thing I would like to say while I have the opportunity is that, this is a judge sport, just like the Olympics, just like X Games, so there is a potential level of human error, right, if you will, or human perspective is even more so. And so, at the driver's meeting, they are very clear about what they want to see. Mm-hmm. They're very, it's very clear, like they have to judge a certain way based on the rule book. And so, after, there's been quite a few evolutions the last couple years of the sport. And I've kind of gotten to the point where my personal approach and what I tell the team is like, look, we listen to what they ask for in the driver's meeting, and the driver's meeting, once we know that, we just do our best to support that. Like, that's our job, is to do what they ask for while adding our style and our flair into it. You got to hit the marks that they ask for, and they're pretty clear about it. That doesn't always get translated to the fans, so there is a lot of confusion. But honestly, I feel they do a really good job for the most part. The thing that I love and hate about drifting is that it's judged, but from a team owner and just an overall fan perspective, it's one of those sports that's like, that the controversy isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to go there with their guy that they want to win. And the deal. If you're looking for anything in this life, you can find it, right? So if you're looking to find the inch where your guy got, the judge screwed him over, you're going to find that, and it's just one of those things that, like, you got to take the good with the bad and not leave it in the judge's hand. Dominate so much that they can't make the mistake, And so, it's interesting to wrap your head around, right? Especially being someone that races and does drifting. Mm-hmm. But a long time ago, I just realized, like, look, I'm just going to do the best that I can do. And then at the end of the day, it's in their hands. Right. And so, when you lose or win, I love the fact that people can be sharing the same car on the car ride home and have two different perspectives talking about it. In traditional racing, you don't get it. The time's black and white. He won. You can't even talk about it anymore. Sure. What you talk about is the crashes or other stuff. So I really appreciate that about drifting, is that it enables opinion and perspective well before and after the event. Yes, it can get frustrating, but you got to find the light with it all.
Hey, you've already mentioned RTR vehicles, and obviously, your personnel has a great relationship with Ford. Some amazing Mustang variants coming from RTR, and also on the Bronco side as well. But just try and define to us what you bring that makes, an RTR Mustang or an RTR Bronco, the sort of like the Fun-Haver spirit that is imbued in them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, man, the whole RTR vehicles thing as a whole is just, I started this as a passion project in 2008, and never thought it would get here. I mean, this year, we just announced that we have a Mustang coming out of the plant with Ford, the only company in the past 60 years that have, one of two companies that have done a collaboration, at this level with Ford. And so for me, it's like a massive pinch me moment. I knew we would get here, but being here is just absolutely incredible. And our approach to the business, really, to automotive in general is, pretty simple: putting smiles on faces, and the fact that cool wins. Like, that is literally what our approach to building vehicles is. So, we take the vehicles that Ford builds, we're fully committed to Ford. This is a decision of mine. It's not something they asked me. And we take their vehicles and, make them, for those enthusiasts that just want a bit more, whether it's the styling, it's the performance, it's the horsepower. We have all of it on and off road with the RTR Mustangs, as well as our Bronco RTR Rover that we just came out with. We say, available to all, not for everyone, right? We have a unique style. We have a unique approach to performance, and our performance, I think the big thing for us that differentiates us from a lot of other, companies you compare us to, is our approach to performance is very holistic, right? Yeah, we've got horsepower. Yes, our suspension on our vehicles is amazing. Yes, they look amazing, but the performance that we kind of focus on is the customer performance, like the experience that our customers get from the moment they step out to do, to hit a cold start, to, the friends they meet at the gas stations, to the fun that we have with them and the experiences that we, invite our owners to. And it's those intangibles that we find really become our magic. And so it's kind of like, yeah, we build cars that look amazing. They perform amazing. They're very different than, say, the traditional Mustang or Bronco that you would see out there. Very unique style. Once we get, our customers in the seat, then all the rest kind of unlocks, and how our team interacts with them. Like, I've been able to just attract such an amazing, passionate team that, like, is on my vibe, and we're just so lockstep with the passion and the enthusiast experience, because we're all enthusiasts. And so, that from a product standpoint is really, I think, what sets us apart. And I think, the big thing, at the top is just youthful. The brand is very youthful, whether you are a youthful 60-year-old or a very obviously youthful 20-year-old, we have such a diverse range of people from the other things that I and we and our other drivers do, which is, obviously the racing, the motorsport, the content, the cultural icons we surround ourselves with, and so it's just been a lot of fun. And if I'm completely honest, I started this business with no plan, just a passion to do something cool. And it's evolved into so much, but like, that DNA is really what drives it. My accounting team might smack me in the back of the head, but like, I don't do things by money and the dollars. So we look at a car, what's it lacking? What's it need? What can we add to it? And we just do it. And then we figure out the business case, if I'm, completely honest. And many people will be like, good thing I'm not looking for any investors, because they'd be like, yeah, what are you talking about? But I just find that, these days, we just connect with things that we feel. And that for me, I just do just about everything with my heart and what feels good. And that's why we say available to all, not for everyone, because we just want the people that vibe with that to come be a part of it. And if you don't, then that's fine. And so, we're constantly, the team we have about 80 people now. It's crazy. And, the team, we're just constantly developing, engineering, dreaming, and, learning a lot on and off road through the motorsport activities that we do. And so it's phenomenal. And the relationship with Ford is, the thing that dreams are made of, and that did not happen overnight. It's been almost 20 years in the making. And it's, now we're really lockstep and doing some really cool stuff together.
Well, now, obviously, as we've discussed, it's time for you to turn your attention back to the motorsport side of things and head into Crandon. Great news for people viewing the RACER Debrief is that we have got the Crandon World Championships live on the RACER Network and on RACER Plus, which should be a phenomenal few days of racing. But Vaughn, I've got to ask you, I mean, with your taco obsession from Baja, heading to Wisconsin, do brats have the same lure for you?
Yes.
That was a very simple answer.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to that. Man, that's amazing. You guys are hosting it live. It is an epic race, and they have such great coverage. I expect you guys are going to have all that. I mean, it's one of those races, it's a difference between Baja and King of the Hammers, although KOH does an amazing job of it. But being able to witness it, especially a lot of your more traditional racer fans, it's a great crossover event for them to check out. Off-road is getting more and more accessible. In fact, a lot of the more traditional racers that I deal with are always looking over the fence. They're like, how's that off-road, Vaughn?
Yeah.
So, you'd be surprised at how the skill set translates, for a road racer into off-road. And, I think, it's really cool. I'm really happy that you guys are bringing this to that audience. And, I know a lot of the off-roaders will probably be chiming in and checking out what you guys do.
Hey, well, looking forward to it. And Vaughn, best of luck to you. Best of luck to Loren. We do want some proper wheel-to-wheel. I realise you can't take each other off, but hey, we want millimetres. And it is going to be a crazy good weekend. So we'll let you get off and get ready for it. Thanks for joining the RACER Debrief.
Yeah, thank you for having us, and much love, everyone. We'll see you at Crandon.